Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. There is some sensational information on the website nieleżne.pl. The Supreme Court may invalidate the referendum of the 15th of October because members of electoral commissions at individual polling stations suggested to voters on a massive scale not to participate in the referendum. If the court upholds the claim, invalidating the referendum may mean repeating it. More on this topic from Łukasz Zmuda from Telewizja Republika. Turnout in the referendum was 41% and Polish law requires a 50% turnout for a referendum to be valid. The opposition's campaign to discourage people from voting was successful, but was it legal? The Supreme Court is currently considering over 2,000 election protests regarding the 15th of October referendum. The vast majority of them concern agitation by members of electoral commissions to discourage voters from taking part in the referendum. The issue was signalled on election day by the National Electoral Commission. The District Commission cannot ask which cards to issue. The new parliamentary majority approaches this topic with reserve. This is not my decision. The prosecutor's office is also dealing with the case, said Minister of Justice Zbigniew Ziobro. We are waiting for a substantive position in the prosecutor's office, and when it emerges, we will certainly inform you. Before the referendum, the opposition unleashed a massive campaign to discourage voters from participating. The major claim was that the referendum was biased. We thought that these were not the most important topics, so we are in favour of holding a referendum, but not with these questions. In the referendum, Poles were asked whether they supported the sale of state assets to foreign entities, raising the retirement age, eliminating the fence on the border with Belarus, and accepting thousands of illegal immigrants from the Middle East and Africa. The issue of the referendum is of fundamental importance for the operation of future governments, regardless of who will be ruling, and concerns many economic and political issues. The Supreme Court's ruling on the validity or invalidity of the referendum must be issued by the 15th of December. The protests are currently being analysed. If the court finds that the law has been broken to such an extent that it distorts the result of the referendum, the process could be repeated. There were many more protests regarding the referendum. Committee members asked crafted worded questions whether to issue all the cards or to issue a single referendum card. Throughout the election campaign, politicians of the Civic Platform Party tried to demonstrate that the referendum was unnecessary. It's going to have a huge political impact. Attention will be turned to the basic interests of Poles. The turnout in the referendum was 41%. Less than half of those eligible to vote took part. Although it turned out to be non-binding, over 12 million Poles did cast their votes. Łukasz Zmuda, Telewizja Republika. The European Commission has approved Poland's revised National Recovery Plan, known as the KPO. This approval has unlocked over €5 billion of the outstanding €60 billion from the bloc's post-pandemic relief fund, as confirmed by officials from the Ministry of Funds and Regional Policy in Poland. For more than 2 years, Brussels withheld funds from the Conservative government. Suddenly, the issues disappeared the moment opposition leader Donald Tusk is set to take charge. The KPO entitles Poland to nearly €60 billion in grants and loans from the European Union's Pandemic Recovery Fund. Before unlocking these funds, Brussels laid out certain requirements that Poland must meet in terms of the rule of law. These include meeting certain milestones and fully complying with an ECJ ruling that calls for Poland to modify the way it disciplines judges. It turned out that the major milestone was, in fact, voting out the Conservative Law and Justice government. Warsaw has been embroiled in a long-standing rule of law conflict with the European Commission as the current Law and Justice government opposed the reversal of its judicial reforms, resulting in the freezing of KPO funds. On Tuesday, the Ministry of Funds and Regional Policy announced that the European Commission has given a favourable opinion on the revised KPO. They asked for €23 billion in loans on March the 31st and also got €2.76 billion in grants from REPower EU. This is part of a plan by the European Commission to stop using Russian fossil fuels by 2030. Poland sent a new plan to the European Commission on the 31st of August, and it included these payouts. This is about Poland getting extra money. Soon, Poland will receive more than €5 billion, which is 20% of the total. Donald Tusk, leader of Poland's opposition Civic Coalition and candidate for Prime Minister, has announced a range of new laws that the current opposition parties will present to Parliament soon. He spoke about bills on in vitro fertilisation, abortion up to 12 weeks of pregnancy, as well as prosecuting members of the previous administration by parliamentary investigative commissions on the 2020 presidential election and the use of Pegasus spyware by government agencies. In the recent elections, the right-leaning Law and Justice Party failed to win a majority of seats in Parliament. As a result, three opposition parties are planning to work together to form a coalition under the direction of Tusk. This is happening even though Law and Justice Representative Morawiecki was selected by President Duda to create a new government. As a sign of the opposition's intention to make its presence felt in the new parliament, Tusk stated during a press conference in the Sejm, the lower house of parliament, that legislation was already prepared to be rolled out. We've created drafts of resolution and laws we'll aim to process tomorrow, next week and in the upcoming weeks, he said. One of the measures is the IVF government funding bill, a joint initiative of the future ruling coalition. Another are the proposals to the Sejm for laws about legal abortion up to 12 weeks of pregnancy and the morning after pill. Even though the bills are prepared, they want public consultations on these topics. He also wants to rectify the wrongs allegedly committed by the Law and Justice government by establishing an investigation committee for the so-called postal elections. Tusk added, referring to the cancelled attempt to hold the 2020 presidential election via post due to the COVID-19 lockdown. At the time, opposition was against postal ballots. Therefore, instead of April 2020, polls went to the polls in June, when virus transmission was minimal. Nevertheless, the Law and Justice government began preparing for an all-postal election, including printing and preparing to send out ballot papers, even before the law authorising the election was enacted. Another commission is to investigate the Law and Justice's government's potentially unlawful use of Pegasus spyware to monitor opposition members. Tusk also proposed legislation that requires disclosure of assets held by politicians' partners and declared that the commission to investigate Russian influence will be dissolved. It was precisely 10 years ago, in November 2013, that a wave of large-scale protests, known as the Euromaidan, started in favour of European integration of Ukraine. 10 years later, after almost 2 years of war with Russia, Ukraine is standing strong. Germany will support Ukraine with another military aid package worth €1.3 billion that will include an additional Irish-T air defence unit, Defence Minister Boris Pistorius said in Kiev on Tuesday. Meanwhile, Ukrainian Defence Minister Rustem Umerov said that no decision had yet been taken whether to dismiss two senior military commanders.
Therefore, I have the honour and the pleasure to announce a new package for my visit here, and in this package is included, of course, another 4 further systems of Iris-T SLM. Included is artillery ammunition of 155 and panzer defense mines. So we are altogether, it's a package of 1.3 billion euros, and I'm quite sure this is the 5th package since last winter. This will help you in your fight against the Russian aggression.
I must say that the decision has not yet been made, but we are doing everything possible to improve efficiency. If this happens, we'll openly communicate about it. Thank you. Umerov made the comment at a news conference by his German counterpart when asked about reports that Joint Forces Commander Serhiy Neyev and Oleksandr Tarnavsky, chief of Ukraine's Tavria military command, could be removed. It was precisely 10 years ago, November 2013, that a wave of large-scale protests, known as Euromaidan, started in response to President Yanukovych's sudden decision not to sign a political association and free trade agreement with the European Union, instead choosing closer ties to Russia. Earlier that year, the Ukrainian parliament had overwhelmingly approved finalizing the agreement with the European Union. Russia had put pressure on Ukraine to reject it. The scope of the protests widened, with calls for the resignation of Yanukovych and the Azarov government. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.